This is Avengers for 9, and it is awful. And this video is about Kurt Busiek and how he has always made random changes to characters that he did not create. This issue is all about Kronos, the master of time. And more importantly, it is about not telling an actual story and just recapping every Kronos appearance and recontextualizing it to fit Kurt Busiek's awful story. It's the same trick that he always does. The secret life of whoever. I've already looked at the issue where it was Madame Masks or the Miss Marbles rape one, and the issue before this, issue 8, it was just the fucking same. It was retconning almost every Avengers comic from like issue number 2. And I want to point out that this is 2 issues in a row. 2 issues in a row of just characters sitting around and telling you how all the odd appearances didn't count, how it was all smoke and mirrors. This one is The Secret Life of Kronos. He's like the Avengers' arch enemy. Him and Ultron, they are like the big 2 main Avengers villains. But Kurt Busiek, he decided he wanted to fucking subvert expectations or some shit and make Kronos not be the main villain anymore. So let's go back to his origin and just change it all. I remember in Fantastic Force Annual Number 2 by Stanley Lee and Jack Quimby, when Kronos, he claimed to be Mr. Doom from the future. Doesn't count, it was all smoke and mirrors, wasn't it? His first appearance in Fantastic Force, issue 19, I think, by Stanley Lee and Jack Quimby. Some people would say that Fantastic Force by Stanley Lee and Jack Quimby is like the holy grail of comics and you shouldn't have to fuck with it. But no, Kurt Busiek, he retcons it all to change Kronos' motivations and his backstory. And then we've got Fantastic Force Annual 2 again. Then we have got Avengers issue 8, classic Stanley Lee and Jack Quimby stuff again. No, let's just retcon it. It was all smoke and mirrors. This really is just the exact same shite as the issue before. Just Kurt Busiek ganning in and self-indulgently breaking hard comics so that his shitty little comic can seem better by contrast. This is Avengers 23, Silver Age stuff. Here we've got, this is for 140. Down here, some Silver Age Human Fire solo stories. This is Avengers 69, 70 and 71. Then we have got a whole bunch of Bronze Age stuff. Hulk, Avengers again, Roy Sternman in the 80s, just every single appearance of Kronos. Nowadays, Kurt likes to pretend he's like some 60-year-old woke progressive, but at his core it is all just hollow words. It's all smoke and mirrors, just like his fucking comics. 20 years ago, Kurt, he was doing jokes about homeless people smelling, or trans people being weirdos, or things looking a bit gay. And his entire run on Avengers is just him doing stuff like this, rebuilding characters and retrofitting them entirely. And not a single one of them he reimagined as trans masculine or any of that other shite he says he would force on the Superman comics. Also, Kronos, he has a really complicated and convoluted history. But Kurt Busiek, for some inane reason, decides to make it even harder to follow. He makes a bunch of Kronos' appearances now not be linear. So here we have got, these are like Bronze Age appearances, but he has retconned them. Apparently, they took place after his 90s stories due to time travel. And that's just fucking stupid, that's confusing. I didn't actually get out of the 90s stories he was retconning, because like you would expect, it's just Kurt just telling you that they didn't count and they are shit because they're from the 90s. He has some 90s stuff here. He just undoes it and leaves it a lifeless, irrelevant mess, just like he did with the cross-dressing or Operation Galaxy Quest. Oh, and by the way, he retcons, hold on, I'll go back. He retcons Infinity Wars. Classic story, Jim Starman. Everyone loves Infinity Wars. Well, Kronos, he was in that story, and when I unboxed the omnibus, I said one of my favourite parts of the story, I explicitly said that the subplot with Mr. Doom and Kronos was like one of the best parts of the story. It's like one of my favouriteest parts of that story. And here, Kurt Busiek, he just says that Kronos, he didn't care about it, and that the whole story, it didn't matter, it wasn't important, it was the 90s, it was shit. Oh god, I really fucking hate Kurt Busiek. I think he is one of the worst writers in all of comics. So we have had 2 issues now in a row of just Kurt Busiek doing his shitty little self-serving retcons. Rubbish. Kurt, he always makes changes. He always breaks and retcons everything. Because he cannot write. He cannot create. His only idea is to refer to other stuff to try and impress you, or to detract and demolish those original stories, to try and prop his own rubbish up. He talks now about how he wants to make Lewis from Superman black and stuff, but he had his fucking chance. The old washed up has-been, he had his fucking chance. He wrote Superman and he didn't introduce any trans-masculine characters. He was allowed to completely undo 30 years of stories at Marvel, and he didn't retcon and break Kronos by making him a gay, lesbian, feminist, asexual. He just broke him because he could. He just spitefully undid every single appearance of him as far back as Stanley Lee and Jack Quimby, and he built a fucking house of shit. I rate this fucked up cat piss 7 fucking thumbs up. Absolute shite.